Dogs at the pound can make really great dogs. And so what's fun about that is there are lots of dogs out there that need homes, and just because they're not here, but it doesn't make them bad dogs. So I always recommend, if you're looking to get a dog, go to your local shelter, and you can find some really fun dogs. So what Sierra has learned how to do is she's learned how to respond to both verbal cues as well as visual cues. And that's really important because she's actually owned by a studio company, not by us. She's on loan to us by a studio company. But because she's a studio dog, we need to maintain a certain level of criteria for her behaviors. Because if she's ever needed to do a commercial or some sort of show or movie, they expect us to be treating those things and for her to be able to perform just as well as she would while she's working with them. So she needs to know both verbal and visual, because obviously when you're on a movie set, you can't be talking to the dog. You can't tell them to sit. You can't tell them to roll over. You need to be off stage, and she needs to be able to perform all of those behaviors without the sound of us speaking. So it's really important that she pays attention to what we're doing as well as what we're saying. Sierra, come here. Good girl. You over here? Jump. Can you jump? Let's go! Let's go! Oh, you don't want to do it. Good girl. All right, what do you think? Sierra Dog's pretty awesome, right? Yeah. Still fun to have at the zoo? All right, thanks, Maria. Thanks, Sierra. What's really neat about the beaver is he's got really specialized fur. We'll show you that fur once he gets into the stream. All that fur helps to keep him nice and warm, and the water just kind of beads off of him, and it doesn't ever get fully touching his skin, so it repels the water quite nicely. So as Ariel is going to give him some food, you might notice the color of his teeth. Now, who thinks they know what color beaver's teeth are? Anybody have a guess? Come on, audience participation. Orange, very good. Beaver's teeth are orange. They're not white like yours or mine. Our teeth are made up of calcium, which makes our teeth nice and white. Beaver's teeth are made up of iron, which keeps them very hard, and that helps for chomping through wood. We might not even get him into the stream today. You want some help? Hi, Beaver. So let's say hello to the beaver. So here we go. You can see his nice tail. Oh. Yeah, that happens. So like I said before, he's got orange teeth, and maybe he'll show them to you. And they are ever-growing, just like any other rodent. He's not the largest rodent. The largest rodent is a capybara, but he is one of the larger rodents. Come up here. Oh, there we go. Good job. So he has ever-growing teeth, so we need to make sure we give him plenty of browse, plenty of things to chew on in his enclosure. Otherwise, he'll start to chew on his own box, which is where he lives, and we don't want him to do that. So they have very good hearing, and if they hear any sort of trickling, that they know then that there is a hole in the dam and they need to go repair it. And they use, you ate that really fast. So they use this nice tail here to pack it down. So they use this tail for swimming, for helping to build the dam, and they use it to communicate. So if there's a predator in the area, the beaver will use their tail to slap the water very loud in order to warn other beavers that there's a predator in the area. So it makes a nice loud, but it's louder than that because he obviously uses his muscle. And this is Morticia. And this is super exciting because this is almost all of our reptile managers. Almost, -1. So we've got Sarah, Jamie, Tiana, and Anna. They're our reptile managers. We do have one more, Janae. And what's really great about Morty is, well, let's start off. She's a Burmese python, and she is 13 feet long. She's in her 30s. And what's great right now is it's nice and warm out here on stage, so the warmer it is, the more active she's going to be. Does anybody wonder what a snake feels like? Anybody? If everybody sticks up their finger and you want to rub the back of your fingernail just like this, that's exactly what she feels like. Their scales are made out of the same thing that our hair and fingernails are made out of, which is keratin. So even though she's nice and shiny and sleek, she's not slimy at all. She's very smooth. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to lift her up all at the same time so that they don't put too much stress on her spine. and they're going to communicate quite well. So thank you very much, reptile managers. Nice job bringing out Morty. We have two types of hawks here on the zoo. We have red-tailed hawk and red-shouldered hawk, and the biggest difference is the red-tailed hawk, obviously, red tail. The red-shouldered hawk has a red breast, and her tail is more black and white lines. So this is Scott. He's going to show off Diego here. Scott loves birds. So what Diego did right now is called baiting. So with Scott holding up to Diego on his arm, that's called manning. Whenever you put an arm, a bird of prey on your arm like that, it's called manning the bird. And occasionally, the bird might see something and get excited, or he might feel a gust of wind that throws him off balance, or he might get nervous. And when any of those three things happen, and they jump off the person's arm, that is called baiting. It's not anything bad, it's not hurting the bird at all. And so to recover the bird, you simply kind of rotate your arm, or they can do what's called an ice cream scoop motion, and the bird feels that there's movement happening, and it'll grab right back onto the arm and recover very nicely. Now you see Diego looking around because he is very curious, and they do have excellent, excellent eyesight. These guys fly way high up in the air, yet they can catch little prey items like lizards and mice and other small things without any problem. Because if they could read a book or read a magazine, if they were on one end of the football field, they would be able to read the daily newspaper on the other end of the football field without a single problem. So they have excellent, excellent eyesight, which allows them to to catch up those little bits and pieces and animals down on the ground. So if Scott turns it around, you'll be able to see that nice, beautiful red tail there. The red is on the top part, not necessarily the bottom, but as the sun shines through and you see them flying up in the sky, you can usually see a nice dark orangey reddish color, and that's how you know it's a red-tailed hawk. Abyssinian ground hornbill. Now you may have seen him down there in the aviary hanging out with his mom. Beaker is 9 years old, about to turn 10, and he was imprinted. What does imprinted mean? So Wilhelmina had plenty of eggs, but she wasn't able to hatch any of her eggs. So a student said, hey, well, let me see if I can bring the egg home, let me see if I can incubate it and hatch it. And that student was very successful in doing so. So because that trainer took him home and hatched him, the very first animal that Beaker saw was a human. So that means that Beaker imprinted on the human, and Beaker thinks he looks exactly like you and I. He doesn't really look like us, but he thinks he does. So that means that he flirts with us and he responds to us. And even though he's back down in his enclosure with his mom, because Wilhelmina didn't raise Beaker, Wilhelmina likes to flirt with Beaker, and Beaker likes to flirt with us. And then nobody flirts with poor Wilhelmina. But that's okay. Wilhelmina's doing just fine. If you get a chance to go down there and see Wilhelmina a little later on, you'll see that she kind of has one messed up wing. That's because when she came to us from the LA Zoo, she was housed in a multi-species exhibit with rhinoceros. And there was a herd of rhinoceros that trampled Wilhelmina. And so she kind of has a messed up wing. But don't feel too bad for her because she is currently the oldest living hornbill in captivity. Ladies and gentlemen, she's 41 years old. Nobody else in the country or the world, as far as we know, has an older Abyssinian ground hornbill. So Beaker's showing off his great wingspan for you guys. Now, these are mainly terrestrial birds. It means they like to be on the ground. So where they're found in Africa, they're pretty smart in that they wait for wildfires to happen, and they hang out just at the edge of the wildfires and wait for all those little critters to come running out, and then it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Really easy for them to find all their food. But just because they like to hang out on the ground doesn't mean they don't enjoy an occasional flight. And I was told a story that at one time, Beaker was in a show just like this one, and he took off and he kind of landed somewhere in Simi Valley. So if you can imagine looking out your back window and seeing Beaker back there, it's kind of a big scare. These are his trainers, Sarah, Ashley, and Scott. Well, he's just showing off for you guys right now. Another thing that you might notice is when you go down to visit Beaker, he's usually carrying around a nice big blue ball, like a blue wiffle type ball. And that's him flirting with you guys, because like I said earlier, he is imprinted. So in the wild, he would like to show off and flirt with other hornbills by presenting them with sticks and rocks and kind of like little presents. He doesn't actually give any of the females any of those presents. He just likes to show off and say, I have them. Kind of like a guy with a really nice car, and he wants to show the car off to everybody, but if you ever want to drive or even drink a beverage in that car, God forbid. So that's really what Beaker does. he kind of shows off his blue ball. He'll parade it around in front of you guys so that you can see that he's got this awesome blue ball, and there is no hornbill better than Beaker. Indian crested porcupine. So there are 4 species of porcupine. There's the Indian crested, the African crested, and both of those look similar. And then we also have the North American porcupine, which is much smaller, and they're obviously found here in North America. And the prehensile tail porcupine, which looks more similar to the North American, but not quite, and they have a prehensile tail. And a prehensile means that they can hang their entire body weight on that tail. So there is a porcupine out there that can wrap their tail around and hang their body weight from it. So I'm going to do my best to stay out of the way. As you can see, his trainers here are wearing pants. That's part of the rules when you're a trainer on the porcupine, is you have to be wearing pants at all times for obvious reasons. Those are sharp quills. But commonly, people tend to think that porcupines can shoot their quills, and that is a complete myth. Porcupines are very smart, and they're actually very generous in their warnings to predators that might want to come after them. The first thing a porcupine will do if a predator comes near is they will stomp their front feet. If the animal doesn't back away, the second thing they'll do is they'll splay out their quills nice and big, and they'll start to look very large in front of the animal. If the animal still, as he's doing right now, if the animal still hasn't backed away, the porcupine will simply turn around so you get a nice good look at all those quills. And if the animal is still dumb enough to come after the porcupine after he's stomped his feet, raised his quills, and turned around so you can see it, then the porcupine will simply back up into the animal. And once he backs up into the animal, his quills are released. They're not shot. They're just released from his body. And there's tiny, tiny, tiny little hooks at the very end of all those quills that help embed those quills into the animal. So if you ask me if it's the predator's fault, they got quilled, not the porcupine. So you can see he's got that really nifty mohawk there. That's how he gets his name, the Indian crested porcupine, because they have that nice crest on top of their head. And another defense that I failed to mention is they also shake their quills. They shake them very, very loudly, and it kind of rattles all together so that the predator knows that there's some dangerous stuff there. You can see the quills on top here are very fine and thin, and then the ones in the very back tail area, we trim those, correct, Charlotte?
No, we don't.
No? They're just blunted like that?
Dave's pointing here. Those are the ones that rattle, so they make a lot of noise
No, I'm
when
not
he shakes
sticking
his butt.
This is my favorite animal on the zoo. So this is Puppy, and he is our turkey vulture. And like I said earlier, we've got some year-long animals and some semester-long animals. And this is one of our year-long animals. Because Puppy is a very relationship-based bird. And he takes his trainers very, very, very seriously. So for the first month to month and a half, when you're first turned over on Puppy, you'll spend every single day getting him and putting him outside, because obviously it's really enriching for him to be outside. And you have to wrap your arms completely in ace bandaging, about 3 layers of ace bandaging and lots of gloves. Because all this equipment that he's wearing, we have to put on in the morning. And obviously, you just saw him kind of bite at me a little bit. I haven't been around in about a week and a half, so he's a little kind of, what are you doing here kind of thing. So the first month and a half, he spends fighting you and kind of saying, hey, I'm the boss in this relationship, and I don't like you, and I don't like you being around. And then after a couple weeks, he just figures out, well, you're not so bad, and if you're going to be my mom, then we might as well bond, and then he becomes your best friend. What's fun is my parents were here just about a year ago, and when they saw me bring him out, I didn't keep him this close to me. Instead, he was more like this the entire time. And I had lots of bandaging on, and I had a lot of Band-Aids on my fingers. And he only weighs about 4 pounds. But you try holding 4 pounds out like this for about 15 minutes. It's not very fun. So I'm very glad that I finally have Puppy's relationship and trust. And now we can kind of hang out. And so what's neat about him is once we do bond, we kind of get to do anything with him. We can touch his feet. I can kiss him on the head. I can, inspect his beak if I need to. I'm not going to do too much with him right now because, we're on stage and he hasn't seen me in a while. But I wouldn't be able to do this, a year ago. So it's pretty special. And it makes the bond with him a lot more special, in my opinion, just because if you have to work that hard to get a relationship with it, once it finally happens, you don't want to leave. So he's going to be one of those hard ones I'm going to have to say goodbye to today. He does use his nice big nostrils. If you look closely, he's got huge, what they're called nares. I can bring him around and show you. He's got nice big nostrils. He's one of the few birds in the wild that can smell. And he obviously needs that sense of smell so he can find all of those dead things out there. So he smells it and he goes right to it. Now he's got that beautiful, I think it's quite beautiful, bald head and those nice naked legs. Because as he's out in the wild and he finds those dead things, those dead carcasses, as you can imagine, are pretty gross, pretty smelly, and they have a lot of bacteria. So if he sticks his head in something filled with bacteria, he wants to make sure that he can stay as clean as possible. So he pulls his head out, and the sun just kind of bakes all the gross stuff off. So that's how you recover a bait from a big bird. And so that helps him keep him nice and clean. And all that bacteria that he steps in with his feet, the way he keeps his feet clean is he urinates on it. And as gross as that sounds, it actually helps kill all of that bacteria. So he's actually a very smart bird. He's a very clean bird. This is going to sound weird, but I love the way he smells. So you can see those nice coloration. These are found all across North America. And when you look up in the sky and you see a bird soaring, if you see that big color difference, the gray versus the black, you know it's a turkey vulture. They use the air thermals to soar, so they like to soar through the air rather than flap their wings and fly around. It's a big treat for you guys to see Butch. Butch doesn't know me so well, so I don't want to spook him. So if you haven't been able to tell, Butch is a type of bobcat. He's not full-blooded bobcat. He and his sister, you could say, Sundance, lived together here at the zoo, and they were rescued from a fur factory. So we're really happy to have him, and somebody is not wearing him out there. So I think it looks much better on him than on anybody else. But his sister looks a little bit more like a lynx, and he looks a lot. That is a crow, by the way, with a nice cawing sound, not what Ebony was talking about. So Butch is a cross between mostly a bobcat and a lynx, and then his sister Sundance looks much more like a lynx than a bobcat. So we like to call them our Blinkses. So they're using baffle boards right now. Ghost was came to us from the wild from Alaska. And he was shot by a hunter. Thankfully, he was not killed, but part of his wing was lost, so he's no longer flighted. I love it. Look at those like old man pants that he's wearing right now. Aren't they the most adorable things in the world? So he's very vocal and he likes to talk, but he's no longer flighted. And he is the largest bird of prey that we have here at America's Teaching Zoo. So they're walking around and they're holding their baffles. They're just making sure that he doesn't go in any one direction that he's not supposed to go in. He's still a bird of prey, so you can see him watching things up in the air. You can see him paying attention. He's got that nice hooked bill, so he could still catch things if he wanted to. He's got a little kiddie pool in his enclosure. So a couple times a year, the students will pool their money together and go get him a nice big fat fish, and it is the most fun thing in the world to watch Ghost try to hunt the fish, because he gets in the water and he plays around. And let me tell you, those nice, huge talons, which I know everybody up in the back row can even see because they're quite large, he grasps at them with those talons and picks them up. Now what Katie's doing right there, she was spritzing him down. Birds do not have the ability to sweat. So if it gets too hot out, they don't have a way to regulate their temperature. However, as we all know, when you sweat, it's the water perspiring on your skin and the evaporation of that water that helps cool you down. Since he can't actually sweat himself, what we do is we take a water bottle and spritz it on his legs, and the evaporation of the water on his legs will help cool him down, because it is a hot day, and it's even hotter out here on this stage. So we want to make sure he stays nice and cool.
Here we go. See you in 30 minutes. Oh, but I can't get into my car. Didn't you have a spring spec car? Okay. So friends and family, you can stand here. This is Maya, my spider monkey, and there's also a blonde one. Her name is Cindy Lou. I'm going to ask you guys to please not talk to them. Don't look them in the eyes. Don't smile with your teeth showing. Don't touch each other. Okay?
What? Why not touch each other? Oh, look at Mango.
Yes, no handing things to each other. That's a baboon. The reason is because that's all dominance displays.
Oh yeah,
So you guys, you can watch. These are the first years, and we're going to go over and I'm going to show them things. If the monkey screams and tries to grab me, do not react. Okay? Hi monkey, come here.
see his throat?
Yeah. Oh yeah, what she's doing right now is she's giving you a territorial howl, saying you guys are too close and I don't like it. So if y'all just want to take one step back, it actually makes when she starts shaking the bars and stuff.
Oh, I thought she wanted to be friends.
Hi, Savuti.
Oh, I love that.
He's a big sweetie.
Oh, such a lazy hyena.
Smarter one.
Such a good voice of beauty, man.
Yeah. It'd be purple.
Good boy, Mark. Good boy.
So the
Speak. Good. Failing at your job, you are failing. Sit. Down. Head up. On your side. Good boy. All the way. Good boy.
oh.
Smile.
Oh
my god.
Good boy. Very good, sir.
You get a picture of that?
I can't tell because there's so much glare. Can't see the screen very well.
Open better. Pull. Open better.
I'm just filming.
Screw it up. Open.
What a good boy.
Yeah.
Open better. Come on. Open better. Good boy. Click. No. Click. Other. Good boy.
Is it food now?
Open.
Ah.
Open better. There you go. Good boy. Good. You're a very good boy.
Ashley, do the throat thing where you push his throat.
Okay. Pretty. Neck. Hold.
Oh.
He holds so still for them so he can take shots and get blood drawn and all that. Yeah.
Good boy. You're so good.
So still.
Your mini animal sounds here. Yeah, hear that? I've actually hung out with you. Yeah.
Alright, so I haven't told you guys.
Oh, Lynn. What you got?
Okay, we'll go this way. I haven't told you guys the rules about Zuri, but we will go over them. If you're behind her and you're close enough and she's doing fine and you have permission from us, you can touch her. She's got kind of crunchy feathers and not crunchy feathers.
Head.
That noise?
What? Yeah, it's like something.
Do not stand in front of her. The way these guys defend themselves is they kick and they will break your bones.
What? A kick will break your bone.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we ask you guys to back up, you're going to need to. It's usually because she's freaking out.
Alright.
Try not to stand too close to her face. She gets distracted and she loves shiny things like earrings and necklaces.
You can touch her now.
Yeah, but you guys can come up and...
Yeah, ideally, try to stand to her side, not behind her, because she does sometimes poop.
Oh yeah, and she'll poop on you if you stand too close behind her. Taylor, when she
I
growls,
like
is
that.
cool. Watch out, Taylor.
Hi. Yeah,
She wants to give you a
you
kiss.
can stand to the side, try not to stand directly behind her because she'll poop.
She can actually rise up so that she's taller than you guys.
Hey.
I don't know. I'm
She's
pretty
all
tall.
like, kind of flat like that. She'll go all the way up. Come on, Bill, you're part of the family.
She blushes really, and then she thinks she's really happy.
Aww.
Say hello. That's fine. We have another story. Good boy, Buns. Go home. Go up. Go away. Yes, please. Go up. Good boy, buddy.
Was that the kookaburra?
So we didn't get to sing with her because they sung with her, but we got to hear it. There's Zeta again.
Sounds like an alarm.
She's alarm
Seemed
calling.
like-
That's what she's doing.
Doesn't seem like she likes Jeremy much. That's funny.
She just chooses people. And she's like, I'm gonna alarm call at you. What kind of bird? So that's a red-crested Turako. This is a blue-fronted Amazon, and a Mickey bird is an orange-wing Amazon. Hi.
I know, I don't want to get my hand in the... There you go.
He doesn't have any teeth on the top. He's straight up like bit my fingers before.
Oh.
Not on purpose, of course. He was fine. Good boy. That was very
good dog.
nice. That was very nice. Buffalo. Cheese. Good boy. That was very nice.
Massive.
Very nice. buddy.
Is he okay?
Yeah, that was weird.
I still think I could take him.
No.
Good
boy.
boy.
Buffalo in the back.
The tortoise are like.
Good boy. I love you.
Alex the booty and Walter.
Let's go move up.
So his hips are supposed to stick out like that, Ash?
Yes. Good. Cheese. Good boy. Ears. Yes. Very good.
Get away with it again.
All right, come on, Buff. Move up.
Why didn't you name him Zabu?
Oh, Zebu.
Yeah.
He was named before he was here. He's been here for like 9 years.